And now you know the history behind Boyim. We are all learning, especially in this Ghana month. But let's reconnect with the graphic Stanbic breakfast meeting. We go back to the Labadi Beach Hotel.
As is our custom, we are here to confer, prefer ideas, and deliberate on propositions that can help shape policies and enable Ghanaian businesses, importantly, to grow. Our theme for this session is leveraging the Africa Continental Free Trade Area and the critical success factors therefore required. Now, situating this conversation in context, I believe it is meet that we pitch a better appreciation of our topic and look at the trade potential in Africa. Africa's population is presently pegged at 1.2 billion, distributed across 54 countries, and with an estimated combined GDP of $3.4 trillion US. However, it is also established that there is minimal trading across Africa's countries and populations. UNCTAD creates a clearer image of the near insignificant inter-African trade for us. From 2015 through 2017, trade among African countries was a meager 2%. And we compare this to the Americas 47%, Asia 61%, Europe 67% in the same period. Oceania, for example, with a population of 43 odd million, came in with 7%. Therefore, we have a significant opportunity considering the state of the market that we are opportune to play in. It thus comes as really welcome news when our African leaders took a bold and rare step to try and recalibrate this by finally agreeing that what will save the continent is the aggregation and exploitation of its combined population as a guaranteed market for Africa's continentally produced goods, services, and to create wealth for Africans. Now, how do we liberate the potential of this significant opportunity that we sit with? Ladies, gentlemen, this, in my view, is the essence of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Indeed, the objects in Article 3 of the agreement establishing the AfCFTA affirms this position, and I would cite a quote, two of them. A, create a single market for goods, services, facilitated by movement of persons in order to deepen the economic integration of the African continent, and in accordance with the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa as enshrined in Agenda 2063. And B, create a liberalized market for goods and services through successive rounds of negotiation. It is therefore liberating that eventually Africa will remove its trade barriers, both tariff and non-tariff, to fellow African countries when the AfCFTA is fully implemented. Experts at the Mo Ibrahim Foundation estimate that at that point when we become fully operational, Africa's GDP would increase by 1%, employment by 1.2%, while trade among Africans will rise by 33%. Other analysts also posit that the AfCFTA has the potential to generate 5.7 trillion in business spending by 2030. And this is only in the next 9 years. It's not that far away. So it's all very possible. Distinguished participants, opportunities the African Continental Free Trade Area offer us are myriad and enormous. And for a country with an 80% estimated population of businesses being SMEs, we need to reorient and gear ourselves to tap the benefits the agreement brings. And this is why the Graphic and Stanbic Bank have agreed to create this platform today, where our expert panelists would enable us plot how we as businesses can tap into the AfCFTA opportunity. I welcome you once again, and I wish you a great meeting. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can do better than that. Indeed, a wonderful presentation by Mr. Afo. I understand the media training is in him as well, and he spoke fluently. I thank you, Mr. Afo, for that wonderful presentation. Well, let's bring another person that believes in this whole dream about this breakfast discussion, Stanbic Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Managing Director, Chief Executive of Stanbic Bank, to give us another address here.
The representative of the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, the Director, Trading Services, AfCFTA Secretariat, Mrs. Emily Mburu Ndoria, the Managing Director, Graphic Communications Group Limited, Mr. Atuafo, the representative of the President of the AGI, the Chief Executive Officer, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Madam Efua Asabia Asari, industry players, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. When the founding fathers of the Organization of African Unity conceived the Union in 1963, they envisioned a future in which African states would cooperate to promote economic development on the continent. After several false starts, the continent has yet another opportunity to realize that dream with the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. I would reckon that Haile Selassie, Kwame Nkrumah, Modibo Keita, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and the other leading lights of African liberation will be watching us very closely wherever they are. Stanbic Bank Ghana is a member of the Standard Bank Group. We serve many African countries and have a physical presence in 20 of these countries, including Ghana. Our group's purpose is Africa is our home, and we drive her growth. Across these markets, a key strategic area of focus is in the financing of cross-border trade. By supporting individuals and businesses to trade across borders, we make these economies sustainable and profitable and achieve a meaningful impact in the lives of our people. As we are all aware, AfCFTA has 8 main objectives, all of which center on promoting the economic development and transformation of the African continent. The alignment between our group's purpose and AfCFTA's goals, therefore, is undeniably strong, necessitating an effective collaboration between the Standard Bank Group and its affiliates and the AfCFTA community to realize our common vision. AfCFTA seeks primarily to improve access and provide scale for its member countries by consolidating a market with a combined population of 1.3 billion inhabitants and a GDP of 3.4 trillion. Yet the consensus is that other challenges such as the lack of adequate production capacity, a huge infrastructure deficit estimated to be as high as 300 billion, a lack of diversification in the export base to include digital and other more desirable goods, both in the B2B and B2C spheres, will prove even daunting. It is from this perspective that we at Standard Bank see opportunities to contribute to this new paradigm in a number of important ways. We see opportunities to consider to provide tailor-made working capital solutions for businesses and individuals, especially in the manufacturing, transportation, and logistics sectors. We also see opportunities to support companies and governments to raise long-term funding domestically and internationally for the development of critical infrastructure. We see opportunities to provide advisory services to assist businesses to integrate into their supply chains and create jobs, especially in the export-oriented sectors. We also see opportunities to support companies, governments, and individuals to manage the expected increase in foreign exchange risks, since the AfCFTA initiative does not provide for a single African currency as pertains in the Eurozone, for example. We also see opportunities to avail our digital platforms and solutions to accommodate the change in traditional flows of goods, services, finance, and people, and the growing digital component of global flows. And then finally, we see an opportunity to facilitate e-commerce by helping both large and small players purchase virtual goods and services on mobile devices and platforms in order to participate in expanding cross-border trade. Our footprints are all over Africa, to the extent that AfCFTA would lead us to the envisioned economic development of the continent. We are fully on board. Indeed, Africa is our home. We drive her growth. I wish you well in today's deliberations, which should help lead us to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Managing Director of Stanbic Bank Ghana, Kwame Nasumin. Indeed, now we are sure that we have a critical financing partner on board when it comes to this whole Africa Free Trade Area. It's all about the money. It's that money makes the world go round. Without these banks, what will happen to this whole free trade area? Well, it's time to also bring on board another critical partner in this whole free trade area. That is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. Let's welcome Dr. Ifua Sabiasari. The great round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Patrick Nimo, Rep of the Minister for Trade and Industry, the Chief Executive of Stanbic Bank, Mr. Kwame Asumeni, also known as Ato Kwame Asumeni, the Vice President of the Association of Ghana Industries, Mr. Frank Ayim, the Director for Trading Services and Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Madam Emily, and the MD of Graphic Communications Group, Mr. Atoafo, Captains of Industry, friends from the media, I bring you greetings from the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. I'm grateful to Graphic Business and Stanbic Bank for the opportunity to share a few thoughts on the theme for today's breakfast meeting. Indeed, next to the COVID pandemic, I dare say that AfCFTA is the next trending item in the world of business on our continent, and rightly so. For an intergovernmental project as ambitious as unifying 54 countries with 1.2 billion people and a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion, it is not surprising that this pact achieves such priority on prime discussion platforms. From where I sit as an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, mandated to promote Ghana's non-traditional exports to grow our economy, the African Continental Free Trade Area is perceived as the crucial turning point for industrialization and development in Africa. The perceived potential of AfCFTA to take some 100 million persons on the continent out of this abject poverty will peg the interest on any right-thinking person. Earlier this month, on International Women's Day, I had the opportunity of addressing the She Trades Commonwealth Forum, a capacity-building initiative of the International Trade Center for Women-Owned Businesses. The topic for discussion on that forum was AfCFTA, unlocking market opportunities for women to trade. With women-owned businesses dominating 65% of Ghana's SME space, it is no wonder that women in that category also want to find out how to take a piece of the cake, and I dare say a chunk of that cake. Honorable Rep of the Minister, ladies and gentlemen, in the last quarter of 2020, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, under the auspices of the Ministry of Trade and Industry and the able leadership of Honorable Alan Kojo Trematin, launched the National Export Development Strategy with regional road shows throughout the 16 regions of Ghana. Coincidentally, Stanbic Bank partnered us on the regional road shows to enable us roll out the public education program. I wish to thank you once again, Stanbic Bank. This comprehensive document was put together with the collaborative efforts of over 100 persons drawn from the private sector, academia, public service, media, and civil service organizations. Within the National Export Development Strategy, there's a portion dedicated to a list of interventions on how, together as a nation, we can effectively position Ghanaian export goods and services in the African Continental Free Trade Area. This is against the background that our records for intra-African trade has not been great. 18% of total exports, woefully inadequate. This is meant to be an improvement on the 9% that used to exist in the year 2000, though. I believe that today's discussion will tease out key aspects we can look out for, which will indicate if we are success-bound or otherwise. With the very knowledgeable minds I see on this morning's panel, I'm confident that this forum will help us identify the vital steps we need to take to ensure the success of the AfCFTA, the kinks we need to iron out in our infrastructure, how we will navigate roadblocks when we hit them, and above all, the commitment to overcome the legal and physical barriers to free movement of goods and people. COVID-19 has caused us enough delays in the implementation of several infrastructure. Let us not do ourselves further disservice by having words spoken here today gather more dust on research shelves. I wish us all an insightful discussion, and may we all remain committed to seeing an industrialized Africa in our time. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Asabia, for that interesting presentation. She said it all in terms of the real opportunities and the challenges that lies ahead for us in terms of this whole Africa free trade area. Well, it's a good time to bring in the rep for the Minister of Trade and Industry, who was supposed to have been here, but due to some challenges, he couldn't make it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Patrick Yawnimo, Chief Director of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, to give us the keynote address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Managing Director, Management and Staff of Graphic Communications Group, the Editor, Graphic Business, the Chief Executive Officer and staff of Stanbic Ghana, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Vice Chair of the Association of Ghanaian Industries, the Director of Trade in Services, Investment, IPR, and Digital Trade of the AfCFTA Secretariat, captains of industry, distinguished panelists, invited guests, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I read this on behalf of the Honorable Minister. Let me start by expressing my profound gratitude to both the Graphic Communication Group and Stanbic Bank Ghana, the organizers of the breakfast meeting, for the invitation extended to me to deliver the keynote speech on the theme Leveraging AfCFTA, the critical success factors. Indeed, the organizers could not have selected a more suitable theme for their first breakfast meeting for the year 2021, considering the fact that AfCFTA holds the key to the transformation of our economy and, by extension, the continent of Africa. The history of economic transformation of the leading trading blocs in the world, namely Europe, North America, and Asia, confirms that no region has experienced significant economic development without a high level of inter-regional trade. As we are all aware, the level of inter-African trade is significantly low compared to the rest of the world. As at the year 2019, inter-African trade was 15.5% compared to 68% of Europe, 69.6% among Asian countries, and 30.1% of North American economies, according to UNCTAD. Ghana's import bill, on the average, annually exceeds $10 billion. In 2018, for example, the total imports by Ghana amounted to $12 billion. The top 30 imported commodities, which constitute about 57% of the total annual import bill in the same year, were largely imported from outside the continent of Africa. On the other hand, Ghana's total exports in 2018 was $14.8 billion United States dollars, including non-traditional exports of about $2.9 billion US dollars. A significant portion of this amount constituted exports to market destinations outside of Africa, that is Europe, North America, and Asia. This points clearly to the fact that Ghana does more business in trade with countries outside of Africa than within the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, let me recall that the creation of a single continental market for Africa had long been the dream of our founding fathers of most of the major countries in our continent. The Abuja Declaration of 1991 of the Authority of Heads of States of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, envisioned the establishment of an African Economic Community. A single market for Africa was considered as the most important building block for the establishment of the African Economic Community. The coming into force of the AfCFTA agreement removes the perennial limitation of small fragmented markets and replaces it with a massive single duty-free, quota-free continental market with a total market size of 1.2 billion people and an estimated GDP of $3.5 trillion US dollars. It is also worth noting that under the Protocol on Trade in Services, which was negotiated as part of the AfCFTA agreement, Ghanaian businesses can now exploit fully opportunities in Africa in 5 service sectors, namely transport, telecommunications, financial services, tourism, and business services. The AfCFTA is expected to boost Ghanaian exports, stimulate investment and innovation, foster structural transformation, improve food security, enhance economic growth and export diversification, and above all, provide fresh impetus and dynamism to the economic integration of Ghana into the African market. There are many benefits that Ghana will derive from effective implementation of the AfCFTA, including better harmonization and coordination of trade between Ghana and other African countries, adding value to Ghana's abundant natural resources, and promoting economic diversification. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in spite of the benefits to be derived from AfCFTA, it is worthy of to note that these benefits will not accrue to Ghana automatically or by mere chance. There are a number of critical success factors that will enable Ghana to harness these benefits. First is the access to trade information. Trade information on products with export potential, prices, market access requirements, and nature of competition is a critical part of participating in effective trading under the AfCFTA. Under the National Action Plan for Boosting Inter-African Trade, the government is seeking to bridge the information gap by providing adequate, easily accessible, and timely information necessary for taking full advantage of opportunities under AfCFTA. The Ghana Export Promotion Authority and the National AfCFTA Coordinating Office have therefore intensified their activities under the one-stop-shop market hub for the provision of integrated, relevant export trade information, including linking the hub with the African Trade Observatory, which has been established as one of the operational instruments under the AfCFTA. In addition to the above, the Ministry of Trade and Industry is developing a structured framework to assist the Ghanaian private sector to establish regional networks to share information on business, export, and other market opportunities across Africa. Meanwhile, the ministry, in collaboration with GEPA, has organized national and regional conferences designed to provide general and specific information on the key components of the AfCFTA agreement, as well as the operational modalities. Second is access to export finance. The lack of access to financing for exports and the high cost of capital in Ghana is generally a constraint to export development. Currently, the monetary policy rate, which has become an important benchmark for pricing lending rates in Ghana, stands at 14.5% compared to 3.5% in South Africa, 4% in Côte d'Ivoire, 7% in Kenya, 11.8% in Nigeria. Financing for exports has therefore become an important issue that requires immediate collective attention if the Ghanaian private sector can harness the benefits of the AfCFTA. The Akufo-Addo-led government, since 2017, has, however, implemented a number of program interventions aimed at supporting the business community with improved access to finance, as well as reduce the cost of credit. These include the financial stimulus package for local industries, which is being implemented with the support of participating financial institutions, the banking sector reforms, which has yielded improved liquidity in the banking sector, the proposals to establish a domestic credit rating agency to assist firms with access to capital, and the Ghana Stock Exchange market initiatives to help attract capital to Ghanaian businesses. The Ministry of Trade will collaborate with banks and other financial institutions to establish special financing windows for products of strategic sectors and special programs such as the 1D1F initiative and the Strategic Industries Initiative. We will also ensure that Ghanaian businesses benefit from the rollout of the proposed Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPSS, by Afrexim Bank and the African Trade Insurance, ATI, which will provide export credit, insurance, and guarantees for businesses in Africa under the AfCFTA agreement. Third is weak institutional capacity. One of the critical success factors that all members states of AfCFTA, including Ghana, must address is the weak institutional capacity within the public sector agencies supporting export development. Majority of private sector enterprises in Ghana are micro, small, and medium enterprises operating in the informal sector, and who, from the development experience, have limited capacity for producing for exports. They require capacity support in the areas of standards, certification, packaging, and labeling, among others. It is worth noting that projects such as the Trade-Related Assistance and Quality Enabling Program, TRAC, has contributed significantly to the retooling of laboratories of the conformity assessment bodies and regulatory agencies such as the Ghana Standards Authority, the Food and Drugs Authority, the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Authority of MOFA. It is important to decentralize the access, availability, and resourcing of these regulatory institutions and bodies to undertake some of such operations at the regional and district level. In this regard, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, with the support from the African Development Bank, AFDB, and International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, has established 67 business resource centers, BRCs, across the country. The BRCs are designed to provide business development services to micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as serve as service centers at the district level for key regulatory agencies, including FDA and GSA. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition, the Ministry of Trade and Industry in January 2021 designated the Ghana Customs Division of GRA as the competent authority of Ghana to ensure that exporters under AfCFTA have easy access to export registration and after rules of origin certification, among other services when exporting under AfTA. Government will continue to make available adequate human and financial resources to support the activities of the National AfTA Coordinating Office, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, to identify and provide relevant capacity support to the private sector operators to take advantage of the AfCFTA. Fourth is the lack of fiscal incentive framework for export development. In order to harness the benefits of AfTA, the Ghanaian private sector requires fiscal incentives in the areas of taxation to boost their competitiveness. In view of this, government has since 2017 removed or reduced a number of taxes. Under the Industrial Transformation Program, for example, a number of fiscal incentive frameworks, including waiver of import duties for imported plant, equipment, machinery, and raw materials for 1D1F companies, and companies operating under the Ghana Automotive Manufacturing Development Program, were approved by Parliament in 2018. In consultation with the private sector, the ministry will develop a fiscal incentive framework for the sugar industry as well as the pharmaceutical sector in Ghana. These would be targeted at taking full advantage of market opportunities in other African markets. Fifth is adequate trade-related infrastructure. The importance of trade-related infrastructure, particularly in the area of ports, roads, railways, aviation, communication, and energy, cannot be overemphasized. The availability and adequacy of trade-related infrastructure will enhance Ghana's competitiveness and position the country as an attractive investment destination. It's in line with this that under the National Action Plan for Boosting Inter-African Trade, the government focus is on developing and implementing short, medium, and long-term programs and projects aimed at mobilizing resources for the development of business-related infrastructure projects and other mechanisms for a comprehensive industrial transformation program. Distinguished invited guests, the implementation of this plan will create the enabling environment for the private sector participation in the development of infrastructure projects for BIAT. This would require collaboration with both local and foreign stakeholders, such as the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, GIIF, to develop innovative, legal, financial, and other instruments for cross-border infrastructure development projects. The completion of the Tema Port expansion project and the successful implementation of the new Trade Facilitation and Customs Management System, ICAM's UNIPAS, coupled with the ongoing Takoradi Port expansion project, construction and rehabilitation of various road networks across the country, and the development currently ongoing in the railway sector will boost the private sector capacity to take full advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, trade facilitation measures have been introduced to simplify the trading regime to help the private sector leverage the numerous opportunities the AfCFTA agreement presents. The reduction in the number of inspection bodies at the ports and border posts, the harmonization and simplification of customs procedures and documentation under ICAMS, the institutional engagements between government institutions responsible for AfCFTA implementation and the private sector, and the significant investment in flagship programs of government are all geared towards ensuring that Ghanaian businesses participate fully in the single continental market. Government will continue to ensure that trade remedies and safeguard measures, which are crucial for the protection of domestic industries, are effectively implemented. In this regard, the Ghana International Trade Commission will continue to enjoy government support in undertaking its mandate in relation to anti-dumping, countervailing, and safeguard measures. Ladies and gentlemen, one needs not look any further for the critical success in our journey to empower the private sector to harness the opportunities and benefits under AfCFTA. Ultimately, the successful implementation of AfCFTA requires national coordination between actors at all levels. It also requires the translation of the strong political will demonstrated by His Excellency the President in support of the AfCFTA into concrete actions by officials at all levels, including public organizations, private sector associations, civil society organizations, and the media. I trust that this August gathering of captains of industries demonstrates that with the right mix of facilitation and support, the private sector will spearhead economic transformation of Ghana by taking full advantage of the African single continental market. I thank you for your kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's show some love for him. Indeed, he has set the tone in terms of what government is supposed to do and the critical issues and the critical things that needs to be in place for this whole African free trade area. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I believe that it will also be a perfect time to invite the rep of the Association of Ghana Industry President, Mr. Ayim-Dake.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Managing Director of Stanbic, Managing Director of Graphic, the representative of the Minister, Patrick Nimo, my co-panelist, Emily, of AfCFTA Secretariat, in charge of Director of Investments. Ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols observed. Representing the Association of Ghana Industries and the President of the Association. Manufacturing has long been considered the main driver of development and economic convergence. This is a statement from the World Economic Outlook, April 2018. This presentation today aims at taking a first step in rethinking policy under the rapidly shifting landscape in development paradigm of macroeconomics with theories and conceptual frameworks of structural transformation being overturned by new phenomena of deindustrialization and servicification. The task ahead is humbling, and our attempt here as an association is merely to initiate a debate which, in our view, could not be more timely or topical for countries seeking desperately ways to grow. Manufacturing strategy that focuses on economic fundamentals to promote export of tradable goods is needed to escape middle-income malaise suffered by many latecomers in the industrialization drive. And such countries, including that of Ghana, others like Kenya, Senegal, Tanzania, Malawi, and we find ourselves in the sub-Saharan space or on the African continent. Need for long-term perspective of policy making in order to avoid the middle-income trap. It's a big concern to the private sector and players in the industrial space, specifically manufacturing. A critical policy concern that we bring to the table for discussion and evaluation. Our policies are made with the mindset of having long-term impact. However, big concerns are our political interventions and political cycles that could interfere in policy formulation, conceptualization, and implementation. To the critical topic of the day, which says, what are the critical success factors that will make Ghana a shining example in the AfCFTA engagement? We captured this set few critical factors. One, as a structural transformation. Two, as competitiveness. Three, macroeconomic fundamentals. And four, are some policy interventions. I'll take up each and try to make a case why we believe a few of these, once harnessed properly, will put Ghana in the right step to succeed in this agenda. Our broad topic of government industrial agenda as one of the structural transformation activities is crucial. In the recent budget read, we have a clear project called the Obatampa Project. Reading through the Obatampa Project, one could list and elicit a number of interventions government intends to roll out as part of its continuity, consolidation, and completion agenda in the structural transformation as far as they could go. One critical one among the list is the bank development of a development bank. Over the years, we have seen the universal nature of most of our banks, deviating from some core critical interventions as captured by the Chief Director of MOTI regarding cost of funds for long-term interventions and medium-term projects. So this subject or this area that the government seeks to explore is an exciting news which we believe, one harnessed properly and the interventions rolled out carefully, could redefine the space of getting the access to the right type of funding for such a laudable project of AfCFTA. Other captured areas in the Obatampa project is the Building Ghana Light Manufacturing Industries. Exploring this will tell you that government intends to revisit what we call the import substitution industrialization. And as captured by the chief executive of GEPA, a clear plan has also been outlined for what we call the export promotion industrialization. In short, we can call it the ISI and the EPI. These are very laudable projects, granted that they could be rolled out carefully. However, the biggest challenge in this space of listed intents and budgeted for is the capacity to raise the requisite funding to roll out these laudable ideas captured under the Obatampa project. So as we engage government as a trade association, we seek to find out how government would go about raising the extra budgetary provision for the Obatampa project. Another step of the critical stages that we captured, it's under competitiveness. And it's not surprisingly, the chief director mentioned that in the speech of the Minister of Trade. Looking through the Obatampa project, one critical thing that we see under the competitiveness that will stimulate the entire chain or bring the coordination of the entire chain under the Obatampa project, but for funding, is what we call, it's the cost of electricity. For manufacturers and industrial players, one critical thing over the years that we have spoken about and advocated for has to do with the crop subsidy of the crop subsidy concept of electricity management, where we have industry subsidizing the domestic market. In other jurisdictions, including the sub-Saharan Africa and other neighbors close to us, you find the reverse. This is so critical as a success factor because we believe it has a structural underpinning issues that any government that comes into power with every good intention can be limited if this subject matter is not handled properly. In our deliberation, it's obvious that the cost of power to industry is pretty uncompetitive in the sub-region. And as we strive to go into AfCFTA with the EPI, which we call the Export Promotion Industrialization concept, it is very crucial to figure out how to harmonize the cost of electricity to make us very competitive on the sub-region. This is structural because it goes to the extent that for a ruling government to take such a decision to normalize or do this cross-subsidy concept, political cycles that roll in every 4 years can be a hindrance to this structural defect that we advocate for. And the politicians acknowledge it. And to us, we believe for a bold politician who sees beyond his party and puts the country first, this will be one other bold decision that we expect our politicians or decision makers to take, just as was taken in the case of the financial reforms, to normalize and bring harmony in terms of cost of power to industry, so as we can build the relevant capacity to export into the neighboring countries. In the same set structural difficulties under the competitiveness, you will also find that a number of PPAs, that's the power purchasing agreement signed over the years, has today become another albatross on the decks of government regarding cost. And to us, one basic competitiveness issue has to do with the cost of transaction. And once all this accumulation or the aggregate will hit our bottom line and make us uncompetitive, it becomes challenging to galvanize the Ghanaian industries to strive to do an export-oriented industrialization. Another critical success factor we looked at has to do with trade facilitation measures. And as captured in the presentation, we have what we call the product standardization. In the case of the product standardization, in previous years or previous decades, standardization of industrialization concepts are crucial to the extent that deindustrialization, and in a recent World Bank report, flagged Ghana as one of the countries that are going through this phase. Once upon a time, we went through this phase where Ghana had a lot of industries all over the place. We all know the stories of the South Industrial Area, the Tama Industrial Area, and various industries that played out. Then Ghana was pursuing what we call the import substitution model, or import substitution industrialization concept. Mostly in the said case, you realize that the labor force from the agriculture or the agrarian industry moves all the way to manufacturing. That then sees the element of high productivity and therefore promotes the import substitution concept. This was flagged. You could see such examples in the South American countries like Brazil, Peru, and then you could go to Far East, and to recent time, China, India, Thailand, Vietnam. So these concepts have been tried and tested. The deindustrialization aspect comes in when there's saturation and low standards of products that are being produced. And once this happens, and the country does not strategically deploy an EPI, what you call the export promotion industrialization concept, the stagnation then drowns and leads to deindustrialization. Over the years, this has happened to our country, Ghana. And as we strive to move into another phase of industrialization, such lessons need to be scrutinized and then find a nice circumvention way to work around this. So standardization, product standardization is very crucial. So in today's Ghana, you realize that what we call the servicification, service industry is what is driving the country. And then in the similar way, you realize that once the service industries are driving the country, the labor force from the agrarian industry moving into wholesale and retailing industry has become the norm of our Ghanaian economic dynamics. And therefore, as that becomes the case, deindustrialization has taken place. And this has taken place over the last 2 decades. So over the last 2 decades, you see a lot of wholesaling, retailing. Once you see that, it leads to a lot of low productivity and further on low formalization of the economy. So don't be surprised you see our economy very informalized. And once that becomes the case, it leads to low taxation. The social impact and social demand on our economic infrastructure is higher, and then the consequential issues of inability of government to rake in the relevant taxes to do more development. So today we see the path and the face of Ghana in terms of our deindustrialization and the servicification nature of our economy. So this is where we are. So as we desire to go back into industrialization and then go for after, once we have this broad knowledge of what the country is, it then aids us to circumvent and bring in the relevant interventions to take Ghana to the next stage. Other critical issues that we found out is the certificate of origin. Certificate of origin is very important because the product type that we seek to produce in Ghana to export or in Africa to export must be well defined in terms of the percentage mix that would define a product as a certificate of origin. Dispute resolution mechanisms and the tariff liberalization strategies are part of the critical issues that we believe will help our country. So therefore, if you look into the product segmentation of 90% product lines that will be liberalized, the 7% sensitive list and 3% exclusive. Our contention is that selection of this product and prioritizing them for support is very critical in defining our success rate into AfCFTA. Then we could look at the broad macroeconomic indicators, and then when you do that, because of time, you would look at the inflationary policy rate, exchange rate, and another one, the convergence criteria of the ECOWAS sub-region. How are we faring? And you could see the blocks of the Francophone countries and the Anglophone countries. Our concern and threat is that due to a number of uncompetitive posture or items in our jurisdiction, the Southern Bloc, which is the South African bloc, looking at the interest rate, the North African bloc looking at the interest rate, inflationary rate, and there are various indices, as against the Sub-Saharan Africans' performance. It then gives you a global picture of those who are ahead and those who have the capacity in the terms of the first mover advantage to take charge of this AfCFTA. And therefore, we urge our governments to critically look at these interventions. And the final one that I put on the success factors is policy interventions. Some policy interventions that come up and has come up even in the recent budget has to do with some taxes. Some taxes to manufacturers and industry can be regressive. And once it is regressive, it then compounds the issue of cost of power, cost of credit, and then policy intervention like taxation, and i.e. industry has complained about the VAT levy, that is the National Health and the GET Fund that is slapped on the VAT rate. We believe we cannot still convert these levies into what we call the input-output and consider it as cost and then knock it off and the final consumer gets it. Such interventions, we believe, are structural defects that if we do not engage carefully to realign the challenge of manufacturing in Ghana, scaling up for AfCFTA will be daunting. We believe raising these concerns and policy issues will bring the room for dialogue and see how best we can streamline our activities. But the AfCFTA project is a good one, and we look forward to engaging and taking advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayim-Dake. He is the Vice President of AGI, and there'll be more opportunity for us to talk about the opportunities and challenges when we get into the main discussion just after the last presentation for this program. This is the graphic business Stanbic breakfast meeting on the Africa Free Trade Area as we look at the critical issues and the success and opportunities that it will present to us. Let me also now invite a rep from the Africa Free Trade Area Secretariat, Madame Mboro. She is here to give us the presentation, and if she can make it snap, maybe 5 minutes would do so that we get into the main discussion where we'll talk about more things. Thank you so much. Let's welcome her, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I know the representative of the minister has left, but we still have other colleagues. So thank you so much for inviting the AfCFTA Secretariat to this very important meeting. And I want to thank the CEO of Stanbic and the MD of Graphic Communications for making it possible to have this meeting today. Let me just say all protocols observed so that I keep within my my 5 minutes. I'm representing today our SG, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, who would have definitely been very glad to be here today to be with you. But unfortunately, due to the exigencies of work, he could not be with us today. But I'll go straight to the presentation, and I think the speakers today have already made my work very easy. They have already explained why we really need the AfCFTA to be implemented so that we can be able to actually harness the opportunities that it does present to us. And I'll just go straight to say that, in Africa, we have about 107 borders. If you want to trade within Africa, you have to actually go through 107 borders. So you can imagine the amount of work that needs to be done to harmonize the going-ons of work at all those borders. Then, of course, my question then becomes, why the AfCFTA? It is because the AfCFTA is meant to deal with these issues that will ensure that we harmonize how to ensure that goods, let me just remove this for just 1 minute, to ensure that goods can move across borders easily. When we talk services, we say that services are borderless, but still you need to move people across borders. So we need to ensure that we make it as easy as possible in terms of people moving also across the borders. Then we have issues of legal fragmentation and need for then having harmonization in the legal framework that we use in the different countries in Africa, so as to make sure that it's easier to move goods and services. And my co-panelist has made it very easy for me when he talked about servicification. Servicification is whereby you see the importance of the services sector in most of manufacturing and in the industry sector. And this is where you have the services sectors like financial services. You're not able to move anything without well-functioning financial services. The same for transport, the same for communication, and the same for professional services. So it has become clear that you actually need to ensure that as you liberalize trade in goods, you also have to liberalize trade in services so that you can have the easy movement of goods and services in the continent. And I think the issues of the numbers has already been covered, and in terms of also that we are looking at ensuring that we bring together the 3.4 trillion US dollars that is the GDP for Africa to actually work for the citizens of Africa. So that is the essence of the work that we are undertaking at the AfCFTA. And of course, it's really hard work to bring together 55 different member states of the African Union to come together and actually harmonize this work. Now, currently we have 54 countries that have already signed the agreement, and we have 36 that have ratified, which already shows you the interest of the continent to ensure that we actually trade under the AfCFTA. Now, what are the opportunities that are offered by the AfCFTA? If the agreement is operationalized, which is what now we have started the process of operationalization of the agreement, we will then see great opportunities coming up for the consumers in terms of consumer welfare gains, and this is in terms of ensuring that economies of scale, the choice of goods is taken care of. Yesterday I was in a meeting of young people, let me call it meeting of young people, it's called the Clubhouse. So they discuss different topics that affect the youth in the transformation of the economy. And we were discussing issues related to the AfCFTA. And someone actually asked, what if my company, my SME company, does not want to move outside Africa, outside its country? So how then do I gain from the AfCFTA agreement? And this is one of the ways that they will still gain. Even if you don't leave your country and you still work within your own country, like now we are talking Ghana, then you will still benefit because of the choices and the quality of goods that you will have. And someone even mentioned the issue of getting even nutritious foods from other parts of Africa. So still there is gains to be met, whether you move out of this country or not. So you will have more choices. You'll have goods coming from other countries that will give you quality and choice. Then you have the second issue, which is attracting investments. When you have economies of scale, definitely you will be able to perform more and better, because when we heard from the CEO of Stanbic, he talked about it's a chain of, now we can call it a chain of companies in different countries. They have been able to establish in different African countries. So because of economies of scale, they are able then to get more customers, because if you can be able to move from one country, I think the headquarters is in South Africa, you have Ghana, you have Kenya, you have Uganda, you have Tanzania. So you have so many countries that now have a Stanbic Bank. So if the legal framework can also then be simplified, they will get into all African countries within a few years. So those are the kind of elements that we are talking about. How do we ensure that we have economies of scale to bring together all the different players? Then you have issues of investment facilitation. One of my dockets is actually dealing with investment-related issues. And now we are starting negotiations in issues related to investment. How do we facilitate investments to come into Africa? And it was quite interesting. Somebody did mention that we are not blocking our way. When we say implementation of the AfCFTA, it does not mean we are going to close ourselves in and only trade with Africa. We are also going to trade with the rest of the world. But we want to trade with the rest of the world in a more coordinated manner. So how do we then ensure that we actually encourage and facilitate investments coming into the African continent? Then a lot has been spoken about issues of job creation and industrialization. And that is where my co-panelist came in strongly to talk about issues related to industrialization, developing the value chains. How do we ensure that we, as African SMEs and even the larger companies, are able to actually get into the global value chains and not only joining the global value chains? How can we create our own regional or continental value chain to ensure that we create our own, how can I say, we facilitate trade among ourselves and also create wealth among ourselves here in Africa? Because everybody now is rushing to come into Africa. It is because now this is the virgin land, if you may call it that. So how do we ensure that even us as Africans gain from this transformation that is taking place in the African continent? Another key issue is the issue of elimination of or eradication of poverty. And according to statistics from the World Bank, we see that we shall be able, if well implemented, the AfCFTA will be able to remove at least 30 million people from extreme poverty and about 68 million from moderate poverty. So this is our chance to ensure that we implement the AfCFTA properly so that we can be able to gain this benefit of eliminating poverty in our continent. And of course, then there will be about a 7% increase in terms of GDP and also help with issues related to distribution of wealth to women and also the unskilled labor. Moving on then to the status of the negotiations, because I'm sure you really want to hear where we have reached when it comes to the negotiations. And here just to mention that the AfCFTA is actually a flagship project of what we call the AU Agenda 2063, which is the Africa we want. So we want to move towards a common African continent where we have harmonized regulatory frameworks, where we speak as one in Africa. So it's the Africa we want. We want to go to the international world and say, here we are as one African continent, as a single market in Africa. So those are the projects or the issues that were felt important for us to come up with this AfCFTA flagship project of the AU. Just to say that we are nearly finalizing negotiations in two key areas, and that is trade in goods and trade in services. We have a few outstanding issues that we are dealing with, but in principle, those negotiations are nearly finalized. And those are the key negotiations that will assist us also to start in earnest trading among each other. There is a few negotiations that are going to be taken in what we are calling phase 2 negotiations, and that is in terms of investment, negotiating an investment protocol, negotiating an intellectual property rights protocol, a protocol on competition policy, and another fourth protocol on e-commerce, or what now we are calling digital trade, because e-commerce is more the platforms. But for us, we want to talk about it in terms of transforming the digital economy in Africa. So we will be looking at it from the point of view of digital trade. And then maybe just to mention that on 21st March 2018, this agreement, the AfCFTA agreement, was signed in Kigali, Rwanda. And even at that signatory ceremony, you had a number of countries that actually signed the agreement. And I believe Ghana was among the countries that first signed the agreement that established the AfCFTA. And as I mentioned earlier, we already have 36 member states of the AU that have also ratified, and it actually came into force on 30th May 2019. Now, this, I think the lower part has already been discussed by my co-panelists, so I won't go deep into it. But the idea is that we shall fully liberalize 90% of non-sensitive products in the next, for non-LDC, which Ghana is among, because you are a non-LDC least developed country, you'll have a linear cut of between 1 and 5 years. So you will choose the products that you want to already start removing the tariffs on for between now and 5 years. I know you are under the ECOWAS, so there is what will be agreed under the ECOWAS, and those are still part of discussions that are going on as to how do you deal with non-LDCs and LDCs in the different customs union. You have the same in SACU, which is the Southern African Customs Union, and you also have the same problem in the East African Community, and in, I believe, even in CEMAC. So those are some of the issues that will then need to be considered and finalized within the next few years. Then you have 6 to 10 years to cut tariffs in what we call the sensitive products, and that has to only be about 7% of the products. But it's not only the products that are considered in terms of the liberalization. We also consider what is the volume of trade of those products that you're calling sensitive products in this case, to trading with other countries in Africa. So there is a number of considerations that have to be put in place when considering which products you will put in which category. You just don't say, because I want to protect my cocoa, it will be out completely, it will be among the exemption list. No, you have to consider also, what do you want to do with that cocoa? What is your strategic plan for the cocoa? So even as you stop exporting it to Switzerland, you still now have to think even further as to how then do you want to do it, and what value chains do you want to create, and where do you want to situate that product in your offer to the rest of Africa. Then just to mention that we have a number of offers. We call them offers. So those are the concessions or the commitment by the different member states of the AU to actually remove barriers to trade. And so before they are complete, we still call them offers until such a time when now they will be final. So we have a number of offers. We have offers from the EAC, the East African Community, from ECOWAS, from CEMAC, and then some individual member states. When you look at all of them, we have about 41 member states that have committed to liberalize trading goods at the AfCFTA level. And here we say that it's covering about 75% of the AU membership. And we hope that, and also when we talk rules of origin, which was also mentioned by my co-panelist, there is about 82 tariff lines that we have concluded work in terms of rules of origin. Then this one just is more to provide clarity in a pictorial form of how much work has already gone into the AfCFTA. And here just to say we have already finalized the protocol on goods, the protocol on trade in services, and the protocol on rules and procedures for the dispute settlement disputes, and they have a number of annexes which are mentioned there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have work in terms of the protocol on competition, intellectual property rights, investment, and e-commerce or digital trade. The key milestones, and some of them I have pointed out, is that in 2012, the Assembly of Heads of States made a decision to establish the AfCFTA. In 2018, there was signature of the agreement that was done in Kigali, Rwanda on 21st March 2018. And in 2019, we had the AfCFTA agreement entered into force, and that is on 30th May. Then in 2019 still, we had the launch of the operational phase in Niamey, Niger, and that was on 7th July. Then in 2021, we had the start of implementation phase. As you all recall, you had a big function where we had the start of trading, as we like calling it. And maybe here just to say that we congratulate Ghana and South Africa for being the first countries that are actually showing, starting the whole process of starting trading to show that Africa is actually willing and able to actually trade among themselves. And we have the end of this year, we hope to conclude on all the outstanding issues. Now, I'll go quickly to just mention the status of implementation, and I'll be very fast because of the time. So I'll just mention why implementation matters and the main, let me say, instruments that we are developing at the Secretariat to ensure that implementation moves smoothly. And here we have the AfCFTA non-tariff mechanism for reporting that has already been established, and it's among the products, if I may call it that, that were given to our Secretary General, His Excellency Wamkele Mene, by the AU Secretary, the AUC, when the negotiations were being finalized. Then you also have the AfCFTA tariff negotiations online portal, and you have the web-based and mobility AfCFTA application for business. You have what we are calling the Africa Trade Gateway, and this is also being developed with the assistance of the Afrexim Bank, where we'll have like a one-stop shop for all issues related AfCFTA and trading within Africa. And you have different components that will be useful for SMEs when they want to trade within Africa. Maybe I can elaborate more during the discussion. We have the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. This one is meant to facilitate the payments across borders. And then we have the AfCFTA Adjustment Facility. A number of countries will lose their revenue once they liberalize. So this is a facility to assist state parties or member states when they liberalize and lose, and in cases where they lose revenue. And the last one is the African Business Council, which we hope to activate to bring together the voice of the business community. So I think I will stop there so that the moderator is not too upset with me. Thank you very much.
That was a wonderful presentation, Madam. Thank you so much. Madam Emily Mboro Ndori, I hope I got the name right. She is the Director of Trade-in Services at the Africa Free Trade Secretariat here in Accra, and such a wonderful presentation. But now, it might be a great time to bring in Mr. Bayfi. He is a technical advisor at the Ministry of Trade and Industry. He will be on this panel also for us to have a discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, let's show some love and applause for Mr. Anthony Befi, a director, technical advisor at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and he'll be sitting in for us to have this discussion as you look at the graphic business Stanbic breakfast meeting on the theme leveraging after a critical success factor. This program is live on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Joy News and our various social media platform, that is on Joy FM, on Stanbic, as well as Graphic as well. And for all those partners who are helping us to bring this program, I'd like to say thank you so much in terms of it, and also other banks as well and other institutions that are supporting us to bring this program to you. This is a Graphic Stanbic breakfast meeting on this after program. So very, very soon I'll be moving into the main discussion, but because of time constraints, I will try to, as much as possible, through this discussion and bring in the audience. But Mr. Anthony Befi, I could just give you just about 3 minutes, 3 minutes just to do some few remarks, and then I throw it back to the audience in terms of having an opportunity to throw your questions and concerns to the officials gathered here. I think I might have up to 10 o'clock to make sure that these things are captured on all the various media platforms, that is Joy FM and Joy News, that we are carrying this program live, and also our various social media handles, Joy FM, Joy News, Stanbic, and then Graphic. So, Mr. Anthony Befi, I'll give you 3 minutes to do a quick, yes, you can click on that one or press on that one, a quick opening remark and where we are, even though your director has spoken, and then we move forward and bring in the audience for them to participate in it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, moderator, and good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think from what we've had so far today, looks like the ground has been set for questions and answers. I've been following keenly the historical perspective and the status that was mentioned by Emily, the Director for Services at the AfCFTA Secretariat, and then the Vice President of AGI, the presentation he also made, and then from the Ministry of Trade and Industry perspective also, the keynote speech that was delivered by my Honorable Minister Alan Martin. And I think I'll just quickly summarize that one. And basically, he mentioned some critical success factors that should be put into place if Ghana wants to derive maximum benefit from this AfCFTA. And the first one, he talked about making sure that we have good trade defense measure mechanism in the place, of which he mentioned that the Ghana International Trade Commission is handling those issues, and then we'll be monitoring the implementation of the AfCFTA. He also spoke about the need to put our BIAT, that is boosting intra-African trade action plan implementation in place. And there are basically 7 critical factors, namely coming up with our trade policy, enhancing our industrial transformation agenda. And basically, when it comes to industrial transformation under our industrial transformation agenda, Ghana has set up this 1 district, 1 factory, 1 region, 1 park to make easy accessibility to investors who want to go into industrial production. Then moving away from business as usual, the government has also come out with these strategic anchor industries, to boost the manufacturing sector, as the AGI Vice President said, so that it doesn't be business as usual, but rather it can enable us to increase our value-added products. Then when it comes to the trade facilitation, he also mentioned about the impending customs reforms, namely through the Unipass ICOM, which has generated fight and facilitate clearance of goods at the ports. And then you also realize that the ministry will also be putting in place certain measures to ensure that informal traders, their clearance at the land borders are facilitated, which will take care of the women and then the marginalized group. Then when it comes to trade-related infrastructure, he also talked about mentioning the need to modernize our ports, our railway system, the aviation, energy, and then communication. Then finally, for trade finance, he also talked about some of the EXIM bank credit facilities and other ones that will enable manufacturers get concessional finance opportunities to do it. Then when you talk about the gap of information to enable Ghanaians get access to information under the AfCFTA and also link up with their counterparts in the African, you also talk about enhancing the the GEPA information network, linking it with the African Trade Observatory, among others. So in a nutshell, some action plan under the Boosting Intra-African Trade has been put in place. Now we have the National Export Strategy that was launched latter part of last year. So everything is in place, and this time around also, this year, we're going to do a lot of consultations with the private sector, get inputs from them for the outstanding negotiation issues, and then also ensure that we also brief them to speed and help them assess the rest of the African market.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Befi. He is the Technical Director at the Trade Ministry. Without a preliminary discussion or explanation in terms of where we are. Well, it's a good time to bring in the audience because it is about you. This program is live on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Joy News and also our various social media platforms, multimedia, Joy FM, Stanbic, and then Graphic as well. So you can send your questions and your contributions via these platforms. But I want to open it up for the audience here. I'm told the microphone is ready, so you can raise your hand up. I'll try and call you. Make your questions very crisp and contributions crisp so that those here can also answer you as well. And also, you may identify yourself and where you're coming from. Okay, I have someone over there. Please, can you stand up, introduce yourself, and then be as brief as possible, sir. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clement Boateng, First Vice President of GUTA, that is the Ghana Union of Traders Association. I have a question for the Director of Trading Services. I'm sure in the African continent, we have various sub-regional blocks, that is ECOWAS, the Maghreb Union, the COSEFA, so on and so forth. And I'm sure this AfCFTA project, was built on the model of this sub-regional blocks. I live in West Africa, and therefore I will use the ECOWAS as an example. We have ECOWAS protocols that the member countries have signed onto, and then conventions which they are all supposed to, abide by it. And in ECOWAS, we have something which is known as the ETLS, that is the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, whereby all the member countries are at liberty to export, their products to the various countries with no tariff being paid. Now we have Nigeria that has banned about 41 items, which they think they want to protect their local industry, and therefore that's not allowed, all the other member countries to export their products onto, but which they have signed onto the protocol. Recently, we have Benin not allowing, especially Anglophone countries within the sub-region, to export their goods to Benin without paying tariff. We live in an African continent. And I foresee such of this thing happening as the AfCFTA progresses. I want to know the measures that you have put in place to forestall such practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the rep from Guta. Can we do 3 questions and then I come to the panel, or 4 rather, will be better, and tell me who you want to. And please, I'll plead with you to make your questions as script as possible, short as possible, so that we can take more questions, please.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kate Abiel. I'm Deputy CEO for Ghana Free Zones Authority. And my question is on rules of origin. And I don't know, I'm sure either Mr. Befi or Madam Emily would be in the position to answer me. What considerations are feeding into crafting the rules on origin? Because I know that if these rules are too stringent, they will invariably negate the preferential access due investors from member states. And I would allude to the ETLS. The protocol on rules of origin specifically bars products produced from free zones from enjoying this preferential assets. Are we going to have a repetition? Because through government policy, some companies in Ghana have been capacitated and are exporting already 70% of what they annually produce. So this should rather serve as a platform for Ghana to, benefit from this noble project. But if this mistake is going to be repeated, then some people already exporting will not even be able to access this noble project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we'll do 3 questions so that we can come to the panel. Let me do the last one over here, then I come to the panel, please. The gentleman in the other end. To the back, yeah. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Cornelius Adabla.
I think your mic is not... Yeah, it's working, yeah.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Cornelius Adabla. I'm a development consultant. Looking at the AfCFTA, I think Africa is at it again, confusing the world. In the sense that, going back to the ECOWAS, we have sub-regional economic groups, trade groups here in Africa. ECOWAS, 1, SADC, and I believe some more, the North Africans, the South Africans, and the rest, East Africans and the rest. I would have thought with the experience, the lessons, the failures, and all that these sub-regional groups have generated over the period, the continental free trade effort would be a confederation of these sub-regional endeavors. We are setting out to create a parallel organization which makes it difficult for the world to determine which of the groups to deal with. I would think that we consider the prospects for embedding these sub-regional groups in a conglomerate African platform to constitute the continental free trade area, so that the free trade area takes from a base of the sub-regional groups and pronounces Africa to the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that we had about 2 questions there. So, Madam, there was 1 question directed to the Secretariat, and then I'll come to Mr. Befi
then we go back to the audience. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. And maybe let me mention that I have with me my colleagues, Peter Joy from the Secretariat. He's the advisor to the Secretary General, Wamkelemene. And we have Paul, who's also a special assistant to the Secretary General, His Excellency Wamkelemene. So those are my two colleagues, so that when you ask me very hard questions, I'll throw them to them. But for now, let me put my hand first at it. Now, the first question was on what are we doing with the RECs and the examples of the failures or the challenges that are being faced at the regional economic communities. And in this case, the mentioned one is ECOWAS, because Ghana is a member of ECOWAS. And here, let me first mention that we are working on what we call the acquis of the RECs, which is that it is what has worked in the RECs that we are now bringing together to actually have and build on the continental level. And so we are, and also let me say, we are also trying not to come up to pick the challenges. Of course, challenges come by themselves, but we are trying to avoid the pitfalls of what went wrong in the RECs. But it is really the RECs that are building the AfCFTA. And you saw in my presentation, even most of the RECs, because what you have done at the RECs level is you have gone beyond. You are mostly a customs union. So ECOWAS is a customs union. So you have liberalized beyond what we are yet to do at the AfCFTA level. So yes, we also have the ambition of becoming a customs union, but for now we are building on the customs unions that have already been established in the continent. You have ECOWAS, you have CEMAC, you have SACU. I mentioned SACU, even if it's not considered as one of the regional economic communities for AU, because of the fact that it is the longest standing customs union in Africa. So, and they actually have a common external tariff, the same as the economic, the East African community. So it is what has been done under these regional economic blocks that we are using to uplift the AfCFTA. Now, let me give you the example of what we did in the Eastern and Southern African region. We have what is called the tripartite agreement. The tripartite agreement followed the model that you're talking about, where it was the three RECs, because of the overlapping membership among the countries of the Eastern and Southern Africa. They created the tripartite agreement, bringing in COMESA, that is the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, SADC, the Southern African Development Community, and the East African Community. So all these three, most of these countries in these three blocks were members of each other. But it did not work as well because it is still member-run organizations. So you still needed to directly deal with the member states. And that is why it was felt that at the AfCFTA level, we needed to have it as the member states themselves then coming into it. Whether they will come in then as their different blocks where they have customs union, so be it. But we are actually building on the acquis of what is happening at the RECs level. So that answers actually both questions. Now, on the special economic zones that was raised by the lady, we are still working on it, and discussions are still going on when it comes to issues of the economic zones. Yes, you have two different schools of thoughts. There is one which is saying economic zones already have that special consideration, so they should just be exporting. And so if we have a free trade area, they should export outside the free trade area. But this is a free trade area, not a customs union. So there is further discussions that are going into it. Rules of origin, the same. So those are still issues that are yet to be finalized depending on what is key for each country.
Let me quickly move to Mr. Befi. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. It appears Madam Emily, the director, has virtually covered all the questions.
Okay.
But just to complement on what he said, under the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, you realize that there wasn't enough under the agreement, the ETLS agreement, there wasn't enough, I would say, articles, or conditions to deal with dispute settlement. So that's why some countries can ban and do whatever they want, and once the diplomatic channels don't work, it becomes difficult to put them on. So you realize that under the AfCFTA, based on the challenges that we had for the 8 regional economic communities, this time around, they came out with a comprehensive protocol on rules and procedures for settlement of disputes, so that if countries are not conforming to their obligations, the other member states will have the right to go there and challenge them. So be assured that this time around, because we have a very solid dispute settlement mechanism, some countries cannot ratify the agreement and then still ban some of the products. Once you have liberalized 90% of your products and then later the 7% sensitive ones, you are obliged to continue to allow countries to export under your tariff liberalization schedule. It is only when there is overflow or there is flood of the market that you can take some trade defensive measures and not unilateral rules. So this one is technically an improvement on the ETLS. And that is why Ghana is even happy that Nigeria has now ratified the agreement. So in the long run, it's going to benefit all of us. Then for the third person who made the presentation, that there appears to be confusion vis-a-vis the AfCFTA and then the Regional Economic Communities Free Trade Area Agreement. There is no confusion at all. As the Director for Services said, rather, the AfCFTA built upon the regional trade agreements that others have. And as he rightly said, you realize that this time around, we are going to liberalize 90% non-sensitive products, 7% sensitive ones. But for the regional economic blocks who have already achieved 100% tariff liberalization, they are going to continue with this until we come to form the African Customs Union. So the agreement specifically states that those countries that have already achieved more than the 90% and then later the 97% should go ahead and do that. So it's complementary to what the AfCFTA will be doing. So there is no confusion at all, and there are clear roadmap that will leak into it. In the AfCFTA agreement, there is room for what we call reviews and then later renegotiation of the agreement, among others. So this one is rather going to help us and then address some of the overlapping challenges with some of the regional economic communities. For the free zones, the director has also stated that but it looks like there will now be a clearer way when they come out with the rules of regulations for the free zones.
Sorry to cut you in here. I have to wrap up on our live that is on Joy News and on Joy FM as well. This has been the Graphic Business Stanbic Breakfast Meeting. We looked at leveraging after the critical success factors that we have to look at, and you heard from these distinguished panelists here and also from the audience. And so we haven't ended, even though we are going off our radio and TV, we still have some time to continue with this discussion. Thank you, Stanbic Bank, thank you, Graphic Business, and all the other partners that indeed made this program a successful one. Thank you so much. But let me come to Mr.